Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky and I'm joined as always by the man who I'd never make wear a balaclava if he got a perm. It's Greg. How are you today, Greg? How's your perm?
Oh, I wish I had the hair to sustain a perm. Those days, I fear those days are long gone, even if I did grow it out.
Yeah, it's probably not advisable to get a perm because it might damage the hair that you still have.
Yeah, exactly.
If that was kind, I don't know. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm all as well here. I went to see Guns N' Roses on Thursday evening with my oldest daughter, which was never seen. I know you've seen them a couple of times. You've seen the current lineup, which contains 3/5 of the original lineup, and one of the many sort of lineups that the band's had over the years. But I mean, honestly, I would say my expectations were low because they definitely weren't. But I didn't expect them to be as phenomenally good as they were. I mean, I used to have Guns N' Roses live in Japan on double VHS cassette when I was younger, and I watched it constantly. And I also had Guns N' Roses live in Paris that I taped off MTV. Where they had Aerosmith with them, they had Lenny Kravitz and stuff. So, and a lot of the sort of showmanship and musicianship but mainly showmanship that the band did sort of 30 years ago, they still do. And Axl Rose's voice is somebody had told me, his voice isn't as good as it used to be. It is easily as good as it used to be. Honestly, I was thinking to myself, well, was I just swept up in the occasion of seeing them? Because I was literally 20 feet away from them, which is something. If you told 11-year-old Greg who bought a bootleg copy of Appetite for Destruction from a market only because I knew there was swear words in the songs, that I would be watching them. I mean, and the thing was, they pretty much played the whole of that album, all the bangers, all the ones that you would want them to hear, and they also played a couple of more obscure ones off the Spaghetti Incident and off their first album, their first EP, Live Like a Suicide. Yeah, it was fucking great. I mean, there was a wee bit of showing off, I suppose. Slash had to get his little moment of 5-minute guitar solo. Duff got to sing a couple of songs. They wheeled the grand piano out for Axl Rose to play November Rain. But he was in such good form, right? Because everybody at the front, that was right at the front, was really, really, really close to the stage. I couldn't see if there was any minders or anything in between the fans and the stage. So people were filming with their phones and taking pictures, and every now and again he'd stop and wave quite good-naturedly to people filming them. And if you remember, 30 years ago, him actually starting a riot because somebody had a big 90s video camera on their shoulder, fucking jumped into the crowd and set about him and then refused to play. Yeah, so he seems to be really, they all seemed in good form. Slash looks the same as he looked when he was staring down from my bedroom wall when I was a kid. Even Duff, they all look healthy. They all look like former drug and alcohol addicts that have really sorted their lives out. You know what I mean? They all, they're really fit and vital. And what really surprised me, because obviously it was in Abu Dhabi. Well, that might not be obvious to listeners, but it was in Abu Dhabi. So I didn't expect some of perhaps the kind of dirtier songs or the more sexy songs, like Pretty Tied Up and Anything Goes. But they played both those songs, and pleasingly he screamed, "Do you know where the fuck you are, Abu Dhabi?" at the beginning of Welcome to the Jungle, which I also enjoyed. Yeah, when he was singing about Friday night going up inside her and Pretty Tied Up, I was a little bit uncomfortable because my 15-year-old daughter was beside me, and he's making sort of the gestures with the snaky hands going, all that sort of stuff. But it was absolutely phenomenal. But one thing I would say, which, and the music snob in me coming out, but not everybody who was there for the band. They were just there because it was an occasion. And it wasn't how if you go to a concert in Scotland, there's a good remember when you and I went to see the Wu-Tang Clan, we went to Tina Park and we watched the Wu-Tang Clan, and we got down near the front, and we sort of became friends for a little while with everyone else down there. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't any of that. I mean, they played for a long time. They played for 3.5 hours. By about 3 hours, I was ready to fucking start punching people. Because some people were absolutely hammered. You know what I mean? Like proper fucking Saturday night drunk. And so I just thought this would be much better in Glasgow or Edinburgh or Aberdeen than in Abu Dhabi. But yeah, it was still phenomenal. Once in a lifetime. I'm so glad I went.
Yeah, that's always put me off in terms of concerts in the Middle East, because a lot of people do just go because it's something to be seen at.
Yeah.
And they can take a photo. I think it was the first time I saw them. First time I saw them was in Abu Dhabi, and I always say it's Axel and Friends that I saw, because it was the Chinese Democracy Tour.
Right.
So it was before Slash and everyone as he had rejoined. So I remember that there was like 3 guys in front of me, and I as like Guns N' Roses are going, I had a few beers and I was just fucking really in my element, and I like put my arm around these guys because we were pretty close to the stage as well, and start jumping up and down, go fucking come on guys. Nothing. You'd honestly think I'd just shat in their pint glass and presented it to them. So after that, I'm just like, what's the fucking point? Like, whereas it's exactly as you say, if that was in Glasgow and I'd be fucking covered in beer, we'd all be jumping up out, come on, yes. It's, I do miss that kind of thing. And the second time I saw them was the current incarnation. And you're right. I mean, Axel still fucking got it. Yeah. And I think what impressed me is, you hear I wonder what time they'll come on stage. Well, they came on stage exactly at the allotted time they should have. There's none of that nowadays. And I think that is part of I think that was one of the conditions with maybe
the rest of the band,
Slash and everyone coming back together. Fair play, they're very punctual. Play 3.5 hours, and
I know.
So they're off stage, and it's perfect. And you're right, they've still got it.
Yeah,
like they've lost nothing. It's amazing. And then I want some new music. That's what I want.
Well, they did release.
I want a new album.
They released a couple of songs a couple of years ago, didn't they? They released that song "Absurd," which they played. It's not exactly Paradise City, but fair enough. And another School Days or something, but I don't think they played School Days. And they played a couple of songs off Chinese Democracy, which I vaguely recognise. I've not listened to that album a whole lot, but good value. And they just seemed, maybe I'm reading too much, maybe I'm sort of reading into it what I want to, but they just seemed quite chilled, enjoying themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, Axl Rose, he didn't say loads and loads in between songs and stuff, but every now and again he would have a little chat and, a little bit of light-hearted banter and stuff like that, and he would sort of gently make fun of a couple of the other guys in the band or whatever, and it was just fucking great.
Very good. Oh, wonderful. Right, well.
What have you been up to? So I just fucking spoke for 15 minutes about Guns N' Roses.
That's all right, mate. That's quite all right. I've been enjoying listening to you talk about Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
Right, well, I guess that's concluded the Guns N' Roses chat. Shall we have a look at what's been happening in Scotland over the last couple of weeks?
Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, Greg, what have you seen in the last couple of weeks in Scotland that has caught your eye and you'd like to share with me and our lovely listeners?
Well, I suppose I better give in the spirit of the 21st century, give a trigger warning before I read this story out. Anybody with an aversion to spiders might want to skip on, or you could just grow up and listen to it. So they're not going to do any harm. But if you feel sensitive about it, you may want to skip on maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But this is in the Scottish Sun on the 30th of May. The new owner of a £1.2 million Scottish castle has revealed that she has been left terrified by hordes of spiders in her stately home. David and Chelom, I think I'm saying it right, Chelom Levitt bought Knockderry Castle, which is in Argyll and Bute, after its former owners were evicted. Doesn't say why they were evicted, but there's a picture of the castle. It's fucking absolutely stunning. David, 59, was heavily involved in the case surrounding Nicholas Rossi. Leaving on a jet plane. A fugitive who was caught in a Glasgow hospital after faking his own death in America. The couple, who have 9 children, which might explain why they've had to buy a big castle, have hired teams of experts to help their labour of love at Knockderry. But Chellam has told how she has been left fighting her fear of spiders as they get their castle revamp underway. She said, "Maybe it's the time of year, or maybe I'm just tuning into it, but this castle has spiders everywhere. I'm not spider-friendly, or even spider-tolerant. I become dysfunctional around spiders. I think this is an evolutionary appropriate response." I think she's being light-hearted there. I hope she is. Anyway, spiders are meant to be creepy. It's their defence mechanism. I don't know if they're going to creep, or scurry, or jump. It's dysregulating, which is a word I've never heard before. This time I noticed these creepy crawlers everywhere, so I was on constant high alert. Writing on a blog that details the castle renovations, she told how her husband came to her rescue after a spider invaded her bed, Nikki. She added, "After a long day of meeting with architects, contractors and others, David and I were sitting in bed answering emails, and I saw a little black something scurry across the blanket. You guessed it. A healthy-looking spider was trying to share our bed. David, chivalrously, punched me in the stomach where the spider had momentarily frozen."
It doesn't say that, does it?
It does. Despite the sucker punch, I was relieved. The Livets hope their labour of love will be detailed in a fly-on-the-wall television series. They said production companies have been seeking to document the painstaking programme of works at the Pile. David, who's a former Utah County attorney... No, it goes into the Rossi case. We don't need to talk about that. But yeah, they're American, so that might explain the over-the-top reaction.
But why he's punching her in the stomach?
Well,
so
might explain that
because
as well.
they're because they're from Utah. Is that domestic abuse is fine? Is it?
I think domestic abuse is okay as long as you can prove that you're trying to kill a spider on your on your partner's torso. So yeah, how do you feel about spiders?
I don't mind spiders. Like I'm not one of those. I'm scared of them or anything.
Yeah.
We've actually got quite a few on our balcony. In the summer, it becomes, because we were on quite high up, which quite surprises me, on the 7th floor, and we'll get a lot of spider webs on we have a railing that goes across. My apartment has we've got these huge bay windows that cover the whole side, and we'll get a lot of spider webs on there, and they don't bother me. It's quite fascinating. In fact, we used to have on our actual balcony, there was a spider that used to live up. It would pop down, you would see its web, and it would have flies stuck in the web, and genuinely, if it was sitting having a cigarette on the balcony, you would see the spider come down, eat a fly, and then go back up. Right. And it was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So yeah, no, I don't mind spiders at all.
Yeah, I mean,
how about yourself?
When I was younger, I was really quite frightened of spiders. But after becoming a father, I had to sort of man up a bit. Well, man up a lot. So, and the thing is, I was always raised that you don't kill a spider because it's bad luck, right?
Thank you. Try explaining that to my wife. If there's a spider in the house, she will kill it. Whereas I ask her to call me because I will come and rescue it and then put it outside. Yeah, because it's bad luck.
Well, that's what I do too. And also, I don't really like killing things anyway.
No.
But yeah, I did have when I was a kid, a little boy, I had a rubber toy spider that for some reason I wanted and then became frightened of, and then my mum, for a laugh, threw it at me unexpectedly. Fucking, after peeling me off the ceiling, we decided that the rubber spider should go away until I got a bit older. And then I did have a moment when I was about 9 when a fucking massive spider was in bed reading the Bruins by torchlight, and a massive spider ran over my hand. Fucking shut me up as well. But yeah, no, these days... I mean, the spiders here in Dubai aren't very big, but sometimes if we're back at home, you get the odd big one, and the girls, my younger daughters, are obviously a bit scared of them, so chivalrously catch them in the glass with a bit of card and take them out into the garden. So yeah, so I'm not bothered. But have you seen how our mutual friend just picks them up with his bare hands and lets them run over his hands and stuff? I mean, that's fucking that's wrong, isn't it?
I don't know. I probably wouldn't do that nowadays. I know I do. If I see a spider, I will try and get it. Otherwise, then I'll scoop it up with a bit of a tissue and then put it outside. But I wouldn't mind. I remember as a kid, would always be playing with spiders in the garden, letting them crawl over my hands and stuff. It was fine. No issues at all.
Okay, fair enough. I I think quite a lot of issues with that, personally speaking, but each to their own. Anyway, yeah, that's Knock Derry Castle, infested with spiders. I'm sure they'll probably deal with it. Just fumigate the place or something, but kill all the spiders.
Fucking big bug bomb, and that'll sort it out.
John Goodman. Speaking of spiders, actually, on the streaming service we have here, OSN, I noticed that arachnophobia has just been added to it, which I might see if I can persuade my daughter to watch it, see if she's into it. Anyway, that's what's your first news story this week?
Okay, Greg, so my first story is probably not the nicest topic, but hopefully it's a little bit funny. But it's from the Scottish Sun this week. And it is about a funeral firm in Edinburgh offering Scots families a chance to bury their loved ones in bizarre custom-made coffins, including a casket designed like a Greg sausage roll. Bosses at Go As You Please Funerals, what a name for a funeral firm, eh? Go As You Please Funerals, in the city's Willowbrae, promise punters that no ideas are off limits when it comes to fulfilling your casket's wishes. And there's quite a few images here of different coffins that they've designed. Each coffin is built to the needs of each individual customer. And popular designs, I just want to say this, Greg, popular designs in Edinburgh include Rangers and Celtic coffins.
Of course, yeah.
TV shows like Doctor Who. I just want to reiterate, Greg, popular designs.
Yeah.
90s Saturdays TV show, Noel's House Party, and Game of Thrones. Who's getting fucking buried in a Noel's House Party coffin? They don't have an image of that one either, which I'm quite disappointed about. You could even be buried in the bottle with picture coffins designed around alcoholic drinks like Bell's Whiskey, Newcastle Brown Ale, and Tennant's Lager. General Manager Murdo Chambers, that's a fucking great name, Murdo Chambers, 49, said people even choose to have the face of their loved ones on the front of the box.
Wow.
He told the Scottish Sun online, it's quite common for family members to request an image of their loved one on the coffin. But the most unusual we had to prepare recently was a pink Harry Potter themed coffin. The family had their mum photoshopped onto a broomstick playing Quidditch. Taste is subjective. Our only limits are to make sure it fits a person, the bottom doesn't fall out, and that the computer can design it. The Undertakers say that their wacky coffins spark proper conversation around an often taboo subject of death and dying. Murdo continued, we encourage personal choice as much as possible. Let's face it, most folk don't go and think about what they could do. They go to a funeral director. Still, thinking what they're getting told needs to be done. Funerals are for the living. It's a chance to celebrate and remember their loved ones in the way that they want to be remembered. So Murdo says his most unusual request was a funeral service for a family where the two sons asked if they could build their dad's coffin. He added their dad had taught them the handiwork skills, so we were able to support them to build a coffin as part of the funeral arrangement. It was incredibly poignant, and they even carved the details and his name into the casket. So, would you like to be buried in a Noel's House Party coffin, Greg? I can't believe they've used that as a popular design. So the images that go with the article, there is indeed an image of a Greg sausage roll coffin. There is a Rangers FC coffin, which is quite apt really since they died. There is a Tennant's Lager coffin, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And a coffin, which is, it's just basically a coffin with a photo of a Bell's whiskey bottle on it. Whereas at least like the Tennants, it actually looks like a pint of Tennants with it looks like a pint glass, the coffin.
Yeah.
So it's, would you have any specific request?
I mean, I think I would quite like the Tenants one, but I think I quite like it now because I could just sort of keep stuff in it. Like if I had if I was ever in a situation where I had my own little man cave, maybe a little bar in there, I could keep stuff in it, and then when I come to the end of my life, it means I can enjoy it, right? And then when my number's up, coffin's already bought, my wife can just get me chucked in there, and job's a good one.
What you'd maybe have like the coffin up on the wall, and if you open it, then you've got maybe some optics in it.
Yeah.
So it's like a little mini bar with glasses. So effectively, just shelves in the coffin that your wife can then remove.
Yep.
Once you need to use the coffin for something else, and there you go. I like the idea of that because it's quite a big investment, but it's something you're going to use. Right.
Practical.
I like the tenants. Yeah, I do like the tenants. I don't know if I was going to, what would I want on the front? I would like an all black coffin with just a red stripe going down the side, like the A-Team van. So
I was going to say, maybe you could ask Gary at Doric Skateboards, our sponsor, to do a wee design on your coffin.
Oh, yeah, that's lovely. That would be a lovely commission for him. Can you design me a coffin, please, Gary? Can I get the Murray Cup logo?
Yeah, but with two white guys.
It's not a bad idea, actually. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. The Doric Skateboards Buttery design on my coffin. That would be good. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's what I would go with.
Sorted.
But yeah, I think it's nice that people have the choice, and he makes a very good point in that funerals are for the living. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I couldn't give a shit what I get buried in because I'll be dead, and I won't be getting buried either. I will put my body in a box and burn it. It's fine. Yeah. I don't care. So, but it's nice that people have the option. I mean, it would be quite funny turning up to a funeral and seeing this big Greg sausage roll just staring back at you.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if I were to attend a funeral and the coffin was brought in for the service and it had a Greg sausage roll on it, I'm not entirely sure I could contain myself. And I think like the grief and sorrow that would be around me in the juxtaposition of that Greg's coffin would just make me even uncontrollably laugh to myself.
I want to know what's on the Noel's house party coffin though. Like, is it Mr. Blobby, or is it
Crinkly Bottom?
About a crinkly bottom, yeah, or a load of gunge, or a gotcha.
You know, as soon as Noel Edmonds hears about this, he'll be putting an order in. Sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's already blocked the deal or no deal box. So,
exactly. Yeah,
that's a great idea, actually. Deal or no deal.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Saturday swap shop coffin.
Oh dear. Anyway, so we have covered coffins and spiders. What else have we got this week, Greg?
Well, we've got a bit of a Swally sort of centric, quite a Swally centric story today. We had a few stories along these lines. Comes from the Daily Record on the 3rd of June. Hero Scott's great granny foiled shop raid by chasing off tooled up thug with a hammer. So this is Jean McGill, 70. She dodged attempted blows by Brian Miller as he tried to steal cash from the till in Forbes newsagents in Dundee. Jean then grabbed a hammer that she wants you to believe Nikki she'd been using to bash in nails. I mean, I don't know how I don't know how many times I've walked into a newsagent and they've had to stop bashing in nails to serve me. I mean, under no circumstances do they keep a hammer under the counter just in case of such an eventuality. Yeah, so Jean grabbed the hammer she'd been using to bash in nails and went after the masked thug, forcing him to flee the scene. A court heard that Miller, who was jailed for 1 year for the attempted raid, met his match when he came face-to-face with the feisty pensioner. Jean said, "He swung and tried to hit me more than once, and he came close, but I managed to lean back and get out of the way. He would definitely have hit me. It was horrific and terrifying. That's when I got my hammer." I'm not a violent person, but a big part of me wishes I'd scalped him with it. I really do. I threw the hammer at him as he tried to get away, but I didn't quite hit him. I'm just sorry it didn't connect after what he did and what he put us through. Jean had only just opened the newsagents in Dundee when Miller entered, brandishing the weapon around 10 to 5 in the morning on March the 11th of this year. But the 26-year-old got more than he bargained for when Jean stood up to him as he repeatedly tried to hit her with a hammer, and she protected the shop till. After being told to hand over the cash, the 70-year-old pulled out a hammer of her own from under the counter.
Where was her bendy metal rod?
I know, exactly. Her hammer of the gods. And lashed out at her attacker. Miller managed to grab £200 from the till before fleeing the scene, followed by Jean, who hurled her hammer at him as he scarpered. Jean said that he came in wearing a mask with his hood up just as we opened at about 4:30. I was at the counter when he brandished the hammer, demanding, "Give me money." I was completely shocked. I just looked back at him and said, "What?" He raised the hammer a bitty higher. I love the vernacular. A bitty higher, and repeated his demand. So I opened the till. There was a hammer I'd been using to bang nails into the wall that I'd thrown under the counter when the customers came in. I'm not in the habit of keeping a hammer under the counter, although I am now, Miller was later traced by the police, and at Dundee Sheriff Court was sentenced to 1 year in prison and a 6-month period of supervised release, having pleaded guilty to assaulting Jean at the Cleppington Road store. He admitted repeatedly trying to strike her with a hammer and stealing the money. Defending, his solicitor Mike Short told how his client was totally ashamed of his behaviour and was fortunate that he'd met his match in Jean. Short told the court, "The footage supports the fact that she is one very brave lady. He is fortunate that he came upon a Dundee lady who does not scare easily. It may be that this lady, who had to defend herself, will not have any long-term problem that other people might do in this situation." So well done, Jean, for sticking up for herself there.
Yeah, I can't believe he only got a year in prison. Like, it says he was trying to repeatedly hit Jean with a hammer. Surely that's attempted murder if you're having a go at a 70-odd-year-old woman with a hammer. Yeah, that's not the best. Good on Jean. I love stories like this. I remember we had the two old grannies that ran like an ice cream shop that chased an attempted robber with pool cues. And a chair. Like, what if, a chair. And I think, a pool cue. Like, why have you got that randomly in your shop? Just like, Jean, I was just hammering in some nails to the wall. Really? Were you really? That's what the hammer's for, is it? Oh, good on her. I'm delighted. And I could just imagine her just fucking flinging it after the guy as he runs away. She says she's not a violent person, but she's quite pissed off she didn't smack him with it, isn't she?
Yeah, she definitely is. Yeah, she does, definitely. So yeah,
good old Jean. I love stories like that of people fighting back and doing the right thing. So yeah, good on her.
Me too. So that's all Jean there. What's your next story this week?
My next story is also from the Scottish Sun this week, Greg, and it is called Angry Bird. It's about a shaken homeowner who has told that he is being terrorised by a crazed crow that is smashing his windows. So this is Torvald Alexander, 53. He has nicknamed this crow Psycho after a wrecking spree that has seen it break 7 panes of glass at his 18th century cottage. And he admitted, I found its antics funny at first, but now that I'm facing a repair bill of over £800, I don't find it so amusing. The geologist's ordeal began when the crow started tapping on the window of his home in Biggar, Lanarkshire. Torvald said, "I filmed the bird doing that, thinking it was quite amusing, but then he smashed the window. I was fuming." So Torvald boarded up the window pane that had smashed, but when the crow came back the next day, it started pecking at his bathroom window, so he shooed it away. The householder went away for the weekend, and when he returned, he found a scene of mayhem and shattered glass at his 2-bedroom pad. He said, "I drove up to the cottage on Monday and immediately saw that 2 of my windows were gone. Then I went round the back and found another 4 had been smashed. I've boarded them up now, but it's going to cost me £800 to fix it. I've not seen the crow since." Hopefully he thinks he's finished the job.
Yeah, I was going to say the crow's obviously thinks to himself, well, my work is done here.
Pest controller Andy Law of Perth told how the winged menace may have been riled up by his own reflection. He said, "Crows cause a lot of problems at this time of year by attacking windows of houses and cars. This is the start of nesting season, and they may think their own reflection is a rival crow invading their territory, so they attack them. They have very powerful, thick, blunt beaks, which can be used like jackhammers." It is pretty unpleasant. And that's the end of the article. So this crow has smashed like 8 windows at this guy's house. I fucking love the fact that it's just, I mean, it's a shame for him, but obviously he's one crow, and I could just imagine his face as he's filming it, thinking, "Oh, this is funny, I'm going to put this on TikTok." And then the crow just smashes the fucking window. He's like, "You little cunt." Boards it up, sees it the next day, shoo, goes away for the weekend, comes back, he's got 7 smashed windows. Oh, I mean, who knew that a crow's beak was so powerful, like a jackhammer, that that it could smash through windows? And who knew that that's what crows like to do?
Well, yeah, I mean, we get crows here in Dubai, and at certain times of the year, if you're driving or walking under the trees. I think when they're nesting, they will fucking swoop down. Like, so I've been driving down the back road, and they sort of fly toward the car, I guess, because they've got babies up in their nests, and we've been walking around the lake and been squawked at a few times by a territorial crow. So yeah, I don't think I'd like to take one on, to be honest.
No, I mean, I guess the only thing you can really do to protect yourself is get some Kiora, because that's too orangey for crows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that might be the best form of defence against crows. Maybe Torvald should think about that.
You still get Kiora?
I've no idea.
I bet you can.
Probably.
Kiora and Umbungo both had the sort of racially questionable television adverts, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Yeah. Yes, I would say. I would leave it probably at that. But yeah, Umbungo, yes. Although Umbungo was all animals.
Yeah,
really.
They drink it in the jungle, apparently, Umbungo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. They do indeed. But yeah, I think Kiora was maybe a little bit racially charged. I think there was another one at that time as well. Was it like Vite Delight or something maybe? That I'm sure there was another advert of that time that had like some sort of...
it was for... it was for Vitalite margarine, wasn't it?
Yeah. Something, it had like a song. It was like a reggae song.
Yeah,
I think
the kids are all right.
Advertise it.
The kids are all right. Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, I remember with Umbungo, I remember quite an aggressive advertising campaign when I was young enough to be taking a packed lunch to school. I remember hassling my mum. We were going around like the Fine Fair or Safeway or something one day to get me cartons of Umbungo for my packed lunch, and she gave in and bought me them. And I remember could not wait. Like the night before, I was like, "Oh, can I have it?" Mum was like, "No, they're for your packed lunch." And I was like, "All right, okay." And then the next day, gleefully opening it to try it for the first time and not really liking it. I was a bit like, oh, it's not really very nice. But the advertising campaign definitely worked on me anyway, but I never asked for it to buy it again.
Did you know, I'm just having a look at this. So Umbungo is particularly famous for its long-running jingle of Umbungo, Umbungo, they drink it in the Congo,
right,
which accompanied animated advertisements. However, Umbungo has never been produced or sold in the Republic of Congo or the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Shock horror.
The song was sung by Tony Jackson. The music and lyrics were composed by Andy Blackford. Wait for this. The advert itself was created by Oscar Grillo at Clacto Animations. Their earlier 1984 advert for Kiora established a new trend and led to them being commissioned to produce the Umbungo spot. So, we have this guy to blame for the two racist adverts that you said.
Well, you know.
But it says nothing here about controversy of it being deemed racist. I don't know where that's come from, because it genuinely is just cartoon characters. The only controversy is that they don't drink it in the Congo. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
However, Umbungo has never been produced or sold in either the Republic of Congo or the Democratic Republic of Congo. So they don't drink it in the Congo. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Bastards.
Yeah. Got to be woke about where these drinks are consumed these days.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, never mind. So have you seen anything else this week, Greg?
Nope. That's all the news I've got.
Wonderful. Right, well, before we go on to what we're going to be talking about today, it's normally where I would say, let's have a little word from our sponsors. And we have our sponsor to talk about, Greg. So Doric Skateboards is a skateboard brand created by Gary Kemp that aims to encourage people to get on a board, whether they're old, young, good, bad, or in the middle. Doric's main focus is to explore the people and culture of Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland to create designs that reflect life in that area. As I've said before in the podcast, and we had Gary on last episode to talk about the brand, I've been a loyal customer of Doric since it started in 2017, and I've got multiple t-shirts and sweatshirts, and I said I'd live in my... In fact, I just wore my Doric for Days hoodie yesterday as well. So Doric Skateboards screen print their own decks in their studio by Gary's fair hand, and they produce some amazing designs, including an Annie Lennox inspired board, a Robert the Bruce deck, a Plenty of Pop deck inspired by the old Bonaccord trucks that Gary and I spoke about in our interview last episode. Doric Skateboards also replicate these amazing designs onto their clothing on 100% organic cotton tees, hoodies and sweatshirts, and you can also fill your boots on stickers, pin badges and beanies. So check out Doric Skateboards for yourself on doricskateboards.com and follow them on Instagram at Doric Skateboards to see the amazing designs on offer. And we are delighted to be able to offer you 15% off as listeners to this podcast. All you need to do is head to dorkskateboards.com, have a look at the amazing decks, stickers, badges, hoodies and tees that they have on offer, and use the promo code SWALLY. That's SWALLY, all in block capitals, same as the name of this podcast, and get your 15% off. dorkskateboards.com.
And he might even do you a coffin. if you ask,
He might, if you ask him nicely, yeah. We'll have to ask him about that. Let's see if anyone wants a Swally designed coffin, yeah. Lovely stuff. Okay, well, Greg, so it was your choice on the Culture Swally on this episode of what we're going to be talking about, and I have to say I'm very excited about what we're going to be talking about. So why don't you tell the listeners what you've picked this episode?
So, this episode, the Culture Swally, is a bit of a change of pace to our usual content. This episode, we're taking you back to 1983, and what a time to be alive, Nicky, in 1983. The seatbelt law came into force, but only for the front seats. Children's ITV launched in the UK. Oh. Nonce free, as far as we know. It had previously been called Watch It, which might prove to be ironic in years to come. Mr. Happy off the Mr. Men assured us that Glasgow was miles better, or smiles better, I can never remember. Bill Forsyth showed us that heroes can be found locally. Detective Inspector Jim Taggart tracked down a killer in Killer, the pirate film, which would spawn the long-running Scottish crime drama Taggart. Specky twins Craig and Charlie Reid formed perhaps Scotland's greatest pre-Capaldi musical export, the Proclaimers, in Auchtermuchty, while over in the West Coast, not quite as cheerful brothers Jim and William Reid formed the Jesus and Mary chain in East Kilbride, and sensitive short arse Justin Curry and friends formed Delamitri in Glasgow. But much, much, much more important than all of that, far, far away from Scotland, an intrepid band of heroes, led by a young prodigy, a grizzled maverick with a cool name, and an aggressive, yet lovable, hairy creature, would embark on a campaign to topple a powerful, universe-dominating enemy against all odds and win. So I think the listeners know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not Return of the fucking Jedi. 40 years ago this year, Aberdeen FC, the Dons, the Dandies, the Dandy Dons, sometimes the Reds, would achieve the hitherto assumed impossible. They would beat Real Madrid in the final of the European Cup Winners' Cup, the only team to ever beat Real in a final before or since, and if that wasn't enough for the good people of the northeast of Scotland, before the year was out, the club would win the Scottish Cup, finish the season top of the league, and bring the European Super Cup, or Super Plaque, back to Pittodrie Stadium. So today, to mark the momentous achievement of Aberdeen, we'll be discussing the recent BBC documentary about this historical, unmatched event, once in a lifetime. So, it was only on a few weeks ago. You had advised me that it was coming up, Nicky, on the BBC. I watched it the other day. I'm not, I like football. I enjoy the game. I don't really have a team. I was sort of raised default Rangers, sort of grew out of it when I was in my early 20s. So I don't really have a team as such, but I've always, because I lived in Aberdeen for so long, I always enjoy Aberdeen's success. Not that they're as successful as they were 40 years ago, but I like to see the Dons win. I don't mind saying that got a bit emotional at certain points of the documentary when they were interviewing some key members of that amazing team. How did you feel when you sat down to watch this?
Yeah, as I'm an Aberdeen fan through and through, you know that. I'm a lifelong Aberdeen fan. I can't remember. I was born in 1981, so although I've lived through the glory years, I'm too young to remember it.
Yeah.
I was there, not in Gothenburg, but the celebrations of
the homecoming,
the top bus, the homecoming. I know I was there. I was only 2, but I was there. I can't remember it, but I know I was there.
Yeah.
My first kind of memories of Aberdeen are really after Fergie had gone. My first real memory, I think, if I think about supporting Aberdeen, was the 1990 Scottish Cup final when we beat Celtic on penalties, and that was kind of one of our last trophies until we won the League Cup in 1995, and then after that, nothing until 2014 when we won the League Cup again. And I flew back from Dubai for that. So I've always been a big Dons fan. I used to go every week. When I reached a certain age, I went a few times when I was a kid, but then once I got older and then I started going every week, I'd go to Tawdry. So it's safe to say I am a massive Aberdeen fan, and I would go to quite a lot of away games as well, whenever I could. So watching this documentary, obviously massively emotional for me to see a lot of the players, and as an Aberdeen fan, it's kind of this thing that's always going to hang over the club. That sounds bad in a negative way, but, it's the greatest achievement the club's had. And to be fair, it's a fucking hell of an achievement to have. We're a small team, small club, and we were the best team in Europe in 1983. We fucking beat Real Madrid. It's incredible. And some people might think it's strange to celebrate the 40th anniversary of this. And why don't you just wait until fucking next 10 years' time and do a big 50th? You got to think that although life expectancy has dramatically improved, you're probably not going to have a lot of this squad in 10 years' time still there. So that's why I think they did have a big celebration. To be fair, most of them will be in kind of their mid-70s in 10 years' time, but you just can't be sure. And we've already lost Tatty, Neil Cooper, which we will talk about later on, definitely. But I presume maybe that's why they did do a big celebration for the 40th, because a lot of players won't be able to attend the 50th. But I absolutely loved watching this. It brought back so many memories. It's so lovely to see Aberdeen in those days, and just the fucking methods, and just, you know what? It was so nice to see the fondness that people spoke about the club, because I will say, I mean, Strachan and Mark McGee were two of the main kind of talking heads. They are not popular with Aberdeen fans anymore. Yeah. However, they'll always be Gothenburg legends. So they get away with what they've done to the club, which I'll talk about later as well. But they get away with it because they're Gothenburg legends. If they weren't, then they would be fucking exiled and never welcome back. But they genuinely, because of what they did, they'll always be heroes in the eyes of the fans.
Is that because McGee was at Rangers for a little while and Strachan obviously managed Celtic for a few years?
No, what fucked McGee up was that he was appointed Aberdeen manager after Culver.
Oh, yeah.
And in his fucking interview, in his debut press conference, he basically said that he applied for the Celtic job, which was available at the same time, and didn't get it. So then he took the Aberdeen job, which instantly pissed off our fans. Then he proceeded to be absolutely atrocious manager, nearly got us relegated. We lost 9-0 to Celtic, and in his post-match interview, he said, it's only 3 points. And that's why a lot of Aberdeen fans fucking hate him. But tremendous footballer, and will always be a footballing legend. But sham of a man. And Strachan, basically because he managed Celtic, and he has quite a bit of a disregard for Aberdeen.
He's a bit of an acquired taste anyway, Gordon Strachan. I mean, he was. I've met Gordon Strachan very briefly a couple of times when I lived in Glasgow, and I've seen him be interviewed in other things. I mean, this isn't the first documentary that's been made about that team, about those players and their achievements, and he's been on other ones as well. But I thought of all the interviews I've seen him give about Gothenburg and about other things, I thought he came across quite well in this, and maybe with the passing of time. But the person that kind of touched me the most in their fond sort of reminiscing about their time at the club was Alex Ferguson, because when you think about everything Ferguson has achieved at Man United, and I know it'll be because it was his first, as he explains in the documentary, he had been sort of part-time really manager of St Mirren. He was managing St Mirren, and he was running a couple of pubs in the south side of Glasgow and stuff, and the opportunity at Aberdeen was his first opportunity to kind of be a full-time club manager. And, just to see him talking, and his body language and everything when he's talking about his time there and his time at Aberdeen and what he achieved with the club, but in particular, the victory in Gothenburg. I thought it was fucking great and really heartwarming. You know what I mean? Just to hear him talking about it. I remember when I lived in Aberdeen, it must have been about maybe 2000, 2001, they gave Fergie the Freedom of the City It was like a weekday. I had no idea it was happening. I remember we'd be having some, I can't remember who I was with, but we'd be having some afternoon drinks on a Wednesday or whatever, as you do when you're at that age, and sort of coming out of the pub, probably the schoolhouse or something, onto Union Street, a bit pissed and wondering what the fuck was going on, and getting moved on from a police officer, because I was trying to stand. I sort of went up the steps in the music hall to see if I could see over it, see what was going on, and police officer up at WPC asked me to move on. But yeah, I loved hearing Fergie talk. I mean, I love hearing Fergie talk about his career anyway. I think he's, just in general. Yeah, I enjoyed the documentary that his son made about him a couple of years ago after he had his, did he have a stroke or something like that, didn't he? Or something like that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and just his fondness for Aberdeen. And then, when you hear the players talking about what he was like to play for back then, and it was just like, you just were doing everything you could to please the gaffer. You mentioned at the top of the podcast about wearing a balaclava over a perm, but of course, famously, that's what happened. He told all the players not to get perms. Neil Cooper goes and gets a perm and has to wear a balaclava during training and sending injured players into the North Sea. The fucking winter.
I wish, it's a shame. I mean, I will speak about Cooper later on, but I wish he'd been able to contribute. I've met Cooper. I've met Cooper many times. Yeah. And as I say, we'll talk about him later. He was just a legend, and he always had a story. Yeah. And I've been at a couple of evenings where he's spoken, like telling tales about Fergie, and he's just got some of the great. So the balaclava one is one of the stories he told. The other one was when he just broke into the first team. He wanted every day he walked past this motorbike dealership, and he wanted this motorbike, and then one day he just went in and he fucking bought it. And he said, I turned up to training the next day. Like, I was so delighted with this motorbike. And I go into changing rooms and getting changed. Fergie just comes storming in. Whose motorbike's that? And Cooper goes, that's mine, boss. Do you like it? Get it sold. And walks out. It's like, fucking, I sold it the next day. Because Fergie said, no. Yeah. But I think I love the fact he speaks so fondly about Aberdeen, and it's because it was the club that built him effectively. Yeah, when he went to and he was treated so well at Aberdeen as well. When he got offered the Manchester United job, the contract offer that they offered Fergie was less money than Archie Knox was on at Aberdeen. Wow, that's how well Aberdeen were paying him. And Manchester United had to break their wage structure to offer Fergie what he wanted to take the management job. So, those days, Aberdeen were looking after their managers very well. I think what sums up Fergie for me is he's harsh, but he's fair. He knows how to treat players, and that's why he got the best out of them. And at Aberdeen, he built a siege mentality, us against them. Yeah. And it was us against Rangers and Celtic, and the media as well. And he really viewed that as a sticking point, because he played for Rangers, of course, famously, but he never forgave them because he married a Catholic. That's and right, he was kind of ostracised. And that always kind of stuck in his craw a little bit, and that's why he fucking loved getting it up on him.
Well, he grew up in the sort of shadow of Ibrox. You know what I mean? Like, he talks in that other documentary that his son made about how Rangers, when he was a boy, were, they were like his Elvis, his Beatles, they were, so you can imagine when you've had this dream from being so young to finally realising that dream and getting on like the team and getting on the first team, and then they're not who you thought they were. You know what I mean? And you're not accepted for who you are. And then, of course, the love of his life, his wife, isn't accepted because of her religion. You can imagine what, he's taken that and turned it into this like fucking uncompromising desire to be the absolute best. And and what he talks about in the documentary here, he says when he got there wasn't millions of pounds to buy players, so he had to focus on the youth team, which is essentially what he would go on and do at Man United to a sort of greater extent as well. What he did with guys like Eric Black and Cooper, John Hewitt and stuff, he would go on and do with like people like Ryan Giggs, David Beckham, the Neville brothers, Paul Scholes and stuff 20 years later, sort of 10 years later, I suppose, wouldn't it be the sort of early 90s? Yeah,
it was the class of 92. They were known as, but probably, just over 10 years later.
Yeah.
But I think the beauty with Ferguson is, he did have, he knew how to mould his young players, but he knew how to get the best out of talent, and he knew how to treat individuals. One of my favourite stories of Fergie is when he was at Manchester United, and Lee Sharp tells this story on a podcast I was listening to. And it was Manchester United against Crystal Palace. Eric Cantona got sent off and kung fu kicks a fan in the crowd because he says, "Go home to France, you French bastard." Eric just snaps fucking... We all remember the kung fu kick. Leaps into the crowd and banned for football for life. Like, later got demoted to, I think, 9 months. Yeah. And the game ended in a 1-1 draw. And Lee Sharp says Fergie came into the dressing room and he just fucking tearing strips off of everyone. Bruce, you were fucking useless out there. You useless fucking cunt. You can't defend. Sharp, what the fuck were you doing out there? You're a fucking useless prick. Absolutely throwing stuff. Then he comes to Cantona and he goes, Eric, you can't go doing things like that, son. That's how he managed players, because he knew, obviously, Cantona, a very volatile individual. So that's best way to treat him. I think it's summed up when McLeish, I think it's McLeish and Strachan that kind of finish each other's sentences in this documentary near the start, when he says, the ingredients were there. Yeah. We just needed the glue to put it all together. Yeah. And it was Fergie. Yeah. And he really did just glued that team together. And McLeish says, they changed the mood of the dressing room, and it was about determination. And he had to get the trust of the established players first. And Miller and McLeish, just what a team, They were just incredible, those two. It was said back in the day that players rarely got past Miller and McLeish. And if they did, then they had Jim Leighton to get past. Yeah. And, it's a formidable team. And Fergie really built that hunger. And that was something that was also said in the documentary that I didn't agree with, and I'm glad Willie Miller came out at the premiere and said it was a load of rubbish. In the interview, in the documentary, Mark McGee says that a lot of us had chips on our shoulder that Celtic and Rangers hadn't come for us, and that's why we wanted to do it. And Willie Miller has said that's a load of shite. He turned down Rangers and Celtic multiple times. Really? When he was a kid, because Willie Miller's from Glasgow. Yeah. And Rangers came in for him a couple of times, but he wanted to go to Aberdeen because he'd heard that this youth setup in Aberdeen was so good. Yeah. And during his time at the club, Celtic and Rangers both came in for him and turned them down because he just loved being at Aberdeen. So he did make a very good point of stating that was crap, because... again, that's why the Dons fans aren't a big fan of Mark McGee. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Because,
clearly. Well, anyway, Strachan even says that he said in the documentary that if it wasn't for Fergie, Strachan might not have gone on to have the career as a footballer that he had. Well, or not even the career as a footballer, the career in football that he had, because obviously he went on to become manager later on as well. But they go back to what you mentioned about Fergie concentrating on the youth team. Strachan obviously is a great example of that. But I mean, what surprised me, and I don't know why, maybe I just never really thought about it, but Willie Miller had been at Aberdeen for 11 or 12 years before, they went on this massive run of kind of bringing trophies back. He signed for the club in 1971, and the thing, I think he's only 27 or 28 when they in Gothenburg. They obviously, because he's Willie Miller and because of the styles of the time, he looks like he's about fucking 45. But but yeah, obviously Fergie's saying in the doc that he wasn't that much older really than some of the older players on the team. He was only in his kind of mid-30s, and he has to, he's got to come in and get these guys behind him and get a job out of them.
I think, and we both met Willie Miller a few times, and he's not referred to as Willie Miller in Aberdeen. He's referred to as God, because he can do what the fuck he wants. There's a statue of Alex Ferguson outside Pittodrie nowadays, and I don't know why. He's obviously a great man, but you ask pretty much most Aberdeen fans, I'd rather have a statue of Willie Miller in Aberdeen, in the famous pose, holding the trophy aloft with one arm. He managed the club for a couple of seasons, didn't do great, but he played some good football, but he unfairly, I think, got sacked. And he still came back to the club and he was a director of football for a while, and he always speaks so fondly of Aberdeen and his time at Aberdeen, and I wish him all the best because everyone just loves Willie Miller. He is Aberdeen, if you know what I mean. He just encapsulates that era, and I know he can be a bit of a dick at times when you beat him, but he just wears that on his sleeve. Like, if you say hello to Willie, you'll
say hello.
You'll either get You'll get a hello back, but that'll be it. Don't expect anything else unless he knows you, and then he'll speak to you. But if he doesn't know you, then you just get a thanks. Because, I mean, to be fair, he must get it every fucking day,
no
in
doubt.
Aberdeen, because he's so recognisable.
He used to come into when I worked at Frankie and Benny's as a bartender. Back in the sort of late 90s, him and Stuart Milne used to come in most Saturday afternoons, but just for a drink at the bar. I guess I guess they probably would come straight from the club. It was back in the days when Stuart Milne wore that ridiculous wig. He fucking looks so much better now that he's just sort of accepted it. And but yeah, they used to come in and he was always, he was the sort of person who never sat at the bar. He'd always stand at the bar. Do you know what I mean?
I like that.
Yeah. So
I like that.
Stuart Milne would be sitting, Willie would be standing, and they would be just shooting the breeze and having a drink. And to be fair, he was always very gracious, especially if anybody brought their kids over to, because it was a family restaurant. And I think he was married, I don't know if he still is, but I think he was married to one of the Cadonas, I think.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah, so but if anyone brought their kids over to say hello to him, he would always chat to the kids, and we would maybe give them something to sign, like a page from a waiter's pad or something to sign for the kids and things like that, if they didn't have anything for him to sign. And he was always, I always sort of judge people by how courteous they are to the staff, and he was always very courteous and very friendly. But he used to have a bar on King Street, didn't he? What was the name of the pub that he had in King Street? You know what I mean? So it's down a bit. It's down towards sort of Uckert Road, maybe that kind of way. But on the other side,
I don't remember now, to be honest.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know if it's still there.
Not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, famously, he had Harry Ramsden's.
Well, yeah. Because he interviewed me. Well, he didn't interview me. He was in the room while I was being interviewed for a job at Harry Ramsden's, which was very discombobulating, I have to say.
So yeah, I mean, he can do no ill in Aberdeen. He's God as far as we're concerned, and I wish there was a statue of him. And I think one day there will be.
I think there will be one day. Yeah.
There has to be, but I love the fact that he speaks so fondly. And part of the interview, this program that kind of broke my heart, was when he was speaking about Neil Cooper. And he had to get up and walk away. And I love the fact that you could tell how much there was a team spirit there and how much they loved Cooper. And as I say, we'll talk about him a bit later because I've got a few good stories about him. But you're right. I mean, Fergie coming into this team, it was the catalyst, and it was very much the right. As they say in the programme, it was dominated by the old firm. And you can tell there was the rivalry there, as they say when they were playing against, Rangers Celtic, the players, yous never win in Glasgow. And that was just the kickstart of, right, fuck you. And that's what Fergie built up. It was like this us against them, this siege mentality. And I thought it was brilliant. And as he said, I think it was Strachan that says in the documentary, like, it was Fergie you were letting down if you lost. And he made you feel that. Like, I guess he was fucking gaslighting his players in a way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of the way he was doing it. And as I say, some of his methods wouldn't get past the Geneva Convention. And with this beautiful clip of him fucking shouting at Doug Rugby, who's that? Doug Rugby, like, a colossal man, and Fergie's going fucking mental at him, and Doug Rugby looks like he just wants the ground to swallow him up at that moment because he's so upset that he's let Fergie down. Just what a man he is. Like, just, but I'd love to, his methods wouldn't get past the Geneva Convention. And as you see them training on the beach, and that's what I remember, and that's what people say even to this day when Aberdeen are playing shit. Someone will come out with, you should get them fucking training on the beach again, because that was the way to do it. Can you imagine nowadays dodging all the dog shit and the fucking hypodermic needles? But that was the way. But I guess it does build if you can train on the beach, then you can do anything.
You never wanted to be injured in Aberdeen, because if you went on Monday, if you had anything wrong with you, North Sea, that was your treatment. Even polar bears, when they gone down there at that time, it was that cold. Freezing.
I suppose they've got ice bath nowadays as well. That was our version.
don't forget we had to walk back to Pittodrie as well, and if you weren't out with a sore knee in the next game, you definitely were out with a bad cold.
Well, if you can train on Aberdeen Beach in the winter, you know what I mean? Fuck. And with a pair of shorts on. Has it been, and to be honest, that's the thing that I love about this team, because everybody, not everybody, but most of them, the likes of John Hewitt, Eric Black, Neil Cooper, they didn't come from Glasgow or Edinburgh, you know what I mean, or England. They were all from the northeast of Scotland, you know, and even when, because they did have a wee clip of Neil Cooper in the documentary, because there was another documentary I watched called That Was the Team That Was, which came out, I think it was maybe came out about 10 or 15 years ago, and they used a wee bit of his sort of talking head for this documentary that we're talking about, and they've still got their accent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it was Eric Black when he was talking about sharing a room with Neil Cooper, and how, you know, just like these young boys, 19 years old, you know, were playing like Hamburg the next day, or maybe it was the day before the final, actually, you were playing Real Madrid the next day. It was like 19-year-old boys from northeast of Scotland, but they've still got that accent that is very particular to that part of the world, you know. So like it wasn't like this was a club that Fergie had spent millions and millions of pounds getting like the cream of La Liga and the cream of like Spanish football and talent and Brazilian talent and English talent and French talent. They were all just like these young guys from the northeast of Scotland, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing, you know, that all the team were Scottish. And okay, that's not unusual, really, in 1983.
Yeah, not really at all, really.
But it's beautiful, the fact that they were all, as you say, so young as well.
Yeah.
Like, said Miller was the oldest in the team at 27.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was only really after the Heysel disaster, when English teams got banned from playing in Europe, that all the English talents, a lot of good English players started coming to Scotland, because they wanted to play in Europe, and Scottish teams, if they qualified, could still play, and that's when we get the kind of Mark Hateleys and the Teddy Butchers and those types of characters. But back then, in the early 80s, like to your point, like Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, predominantly, if not exclusively, Scottish players.
Yeah.
And guess what? We qualified for every World Cup back in those days, pretty much.
Yeah, that's true. You know? That's very true, yeah. If you thought Fergie's methods were bad, what about the stories of Archie Knox hitting players with a baseball bat? How would you get away with that nowadays? Like, and the thing is, you fucking believe it, because, I mean, Archie Knox, that's what people always used to say, like, Fergie was bad, but Knox was fucking 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And as he says, when he comes in, he's like, do you want me to be good cop? He's like, no, we're bad cop and bad cop. It's like, and you fucking believe it. When you see that clip, I mean, we'll come to it later on in terms of best use of swearing. There's no volume, but you can tell exactly what Knox is saying to the camera. Wonderful.
I think the thing is, I think if your name is Archie Knox, you have to be a hard cunt, right? You have to be. You're obliged to be a fucking hard bastard if your name's Archie Knox.
Could you imagine, as the stories tell this player, you know, the story of stripping him naked and throwing snowballs at him, you can tell he's still fucking raging about that. I mean, he's laughing away, but you can tell. I bet they got a fucking battering with that baseball bat. It's just the ridiculousness of the way Strachan's telling it. Like, Archie used to come in with this baseball bat and fucking smack you with it. Like, wait a minute.
I mean, like, there's obviously, you know, like the last couple of years, the hugely successful Apple TV comedy dramedy Ted Lasso. You know, if there's like an opposite to the methods employed by Ted and Coach Beard, it is the methods employed by Ferguson and Archie Knox to whip these guys into shape, you know. But like, you know, it fucking, you can maybe argue with their methods, but you can't deny them. You know what I mean?
They fucking work, didn't
exactly.
they? You know, they certainly work. So Fergie did bring us some glory to Aberdeen. He won us the league, and then the next season wasn't great, but we won the cup, and that effectively led to what this is all centred around, the 1983 Cup Winners' Cup. And I know they speak about the 82 season where we lost to Hamburg in the UEFA Cup.
Yeah.
And you can tell that still pisses Fergie off, that loss. Like, It's over 41 years, but you can tell it still fucking annoys him that they lost. He's like, we shouldn't have lost that game. Shouldn't have lost it.
You kind of get the feeling that every game that Fergie has lost as a player or a manager still fucking annoys him when he thinks back on it, you know.
Some of the games he's won still annoy him, as we'll come to the cup final after the Scottish Cup final. That goes down as legend. It's Fergie fucking raging about that. We fucking won 1-0. We just won the cup and he's fucking raging. It's so good. I think so. The catalyst, and it's quite a beautiful. People like to say this. That cup run that won us the Scottish Cup in '82. John Hewitt scored, I think it was, I don't know if it still is, but it was the fastest goal in Scottish Cup history in the first round against Motherwell. And then it's kind of like people think it's like a nice bookend, because that was the starting off the Scottish Cup run, which then got us into the Cup Winners' Cup, and then he scores the winning goal in the final. So it's almost like a beautiful bookend of he started the campaign and he finished it, you know, with a goal in terms of John Hewitt. So the cup final against Rangers, you know, it's beautiful in terms of 1-0 down. You're like, oh, fuck's sake. And end up winning 4-1. With McLeish, McGee, Strachan and Cooper scoring. Like, that would never fucking happen nowadays. Like, and it's just beautiful. You're kind of watching this thinking, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. 4-1. Great.
But what a time to be a mature football fan. You know what I mean? Because I remember little bits back in these days. But I was like 5 years old. So, like, when I say I remember having, like, the stickers for the Panini boot, you know. I remember little moments of certain games that my granddad would be watching or whatever. But imagine being like a mature sort of 20-something-year-old fan, plenty of money in your pocket, following your team around the country, and it's, you know, it's always a bit harder to be a fan of teams like Aberdeen than it is to be fans of teams like Celtic or Rangers, because, you know, like, those other two clubs have been fairly consistent off and on for years, whereas you know, clubs like Aberdeen, you have your purple patches and then you have your downturns and stuff like that. But to be able to go to the games and getting the old bone shaker bust into the pub with a few warm cans of turn special, and you know what I mean, and just having a day out and then witnessing a fucking comeback like that. Amazing.
I just can't even imagine something like that nowadays. Of being able to witness that. It's just, must be just beautiful, phenomenal stuff. It did pretty well in terms of the first few rounds. It beat Sion in Switzerland 11-1 on aggregate. It beat Dynamo Tiara from Albania 1-0 the first leg, 2-0 the second leg. That's a really interesting part as well, when you forget, you know, that these guys have gone to a communist country. Like, they've never seen anything like it. And then whilst they're there's talk of this coup that's been reported back home, and everyone's worried about what's happening. But what was it they said? Like, it turns out it was just two guys in a boat or something. Like, we'll come to claim the country. I bet they were fucking shot straight away in Albania.
Just largely ignored by everybody, you know.
Then they go to Poland, beat Lech Poznan 2-0, 3-0 aggregate. And then the greatest game, I think most people say, ever at Pittodrie. It's against Bayern Munich, quarterfinal. So 0-0 in Munich. Fergie raging, fucking drew 0-0. Like, what a goal. I loved the Bayern manager saying, there's no way that this team can beat us. And then the Bayern team knew they were in trouble when they saw that none of the Aberdeen team had any teeth.
But that was a sign of a fucking great football player back in those days. You know what I mean? Fucking get guys like Joe Jordan and Jim Leighton and stuff. They fucking 3 teeth in their head. You know.
If I have one criticism about this documentary, they don't pay enough attention to this free kick that scored against Bayern, and because we're 2-1 down, and it's genuinely one of the greatest Aberdeen free kicks we've ever seen. It's Strachan and John McMaster are running over the ball, and they both run at it, and they run past it. And the Bayern team are confused, and then like, oh, they fucked it up. So the Bayern players immediately relax. And as Strachan and McMaster are walking back, Strachan just turns around and pings it in, and McLeish heads it in. And the Bayern players are so confused and fucking raging. That's why we scored the next goal to go 3-2 up, because they're still fucking arguing with the ref. We've just kicked off, and then Hewitt scores. That's what they say in the documentary. The cameras hardly picked up the winning goal because they were still focusing on what the fuck just happened here. Is that allowed? It's a bit of genius. But they say, I did watch a clip with John McMaster, and he says we tried it a few times in Scotland and it worked once, but then other teams got wise to it.
Yeah.
So we didn't do it again, but then we were like, fuck it, let's give it a try and see if this works. It's like, fucking did. And it's just a bit of genius. Now, in speaking about the win, Willie Miller comes out with this line that I've never heard before. And I wanted to ask, have you ever heard this? He goes, it's celebrations, it's straw hats and trumpets. And I'm like, fucking, what does that mean? It's straw hats and trumpets.
Never heard that before. I don't think that. I was like, maybe it's over the time or something, but I'd never heard that in my life.
Bizarre.
Yeah. But, I mean, I was watching the footage of that game at Pittodrie. So it's probably a weekday. Well, it will be a weekday because it's European football and it's the evening. Fans queued overnight to get these tickets. What a night. There can't have been many nights or days like that at Pittodrie in all the club's history. To beat a team like Bayern, you know what I mean? And your own doorstep.
That's widely kind of regarded as the greatest night at Pittodrie to beat Bayern Munich. The only other game that is kind of held up there in the same is when we beat Copenhagen 4-1. That would have been about 2009, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
2008, 2009. Because of the performance. And Copenhagen were a fucking good team at that time as well. But beating Bayern at Pittodrie is probably the greatest match at Pittodrie. 3-2, and what a game as well. And just to the sheer level of performance, it's really that'll always go down as the one. And that kind of even overshadows the semi-final against Watershire. We win 5-1 at home, but the fact that we beat Bayern is the one that's there, and then lose 1-0 there. But that is the catalyst that starts the final that we're going to have against Real Madrid, which is why we're all here. And I love seeing the images of the people on the ferry, and it's a beautiful moment with the interviewer when, because what are you going to do after the match? Get drunk. And what if you lose? Still get drunk. Just encapsulates the time, and a plane load after plane load of people going over, and the ferry, and all the booze that they had there, and what an occasion! Absolutely amazing.
Within a couple of hours of leaving Aberdeen, some of the fans had already given up finding their sea legs. 3 20-foot containers packed with beer were stowed below decks. Not bad among 500 fans.
24 extra flights started the almost non-stop air ferry at the crack of dawn. Plane load after plane load were pushed out onto the tarmac.
What are you going to do after the match?
Get drunk. Celebrate.
What happens if we lose?
Still get drunk.
You know that some of those guys, especially after the win, probably just missing in action for fucking days and days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Without a doubt, definitely. Yeah, there'd be quite a lot of casualties, I think, in terms of the people. I mean, unfortunately, there was one person died, and it was at the match when Eric Black scores to go 1-0. It's very unfortunate. There was a young lad. I can't remember. He was only like 22.
Right.
And he had a cerebral hemorrhage. Oh, no. Black's own goal. And Fergie made a point of when they got back, he went to go and visit his mum and dad and sister and speak to them and give condolences. So that was a sad loss, a sad moment of the game, unfortunately. But that ferry over, I think it's stuff of legends in terms of what went on in that ferry, and you see them swinging away. What a party! Like on the way there, on the way back, it must have been 10 times better. It would have been fucking mental, straw hats and trumpets.
Well, I remember, I know it's a book that you've read a lot of times, as I have. Jay Allen's book about being a casual. But
yeah, bloody casuals.
Yeah, he's bloody casuals. But he's actually, his chapter about Gothenburg has got nothing to do with being a casual and everything to do with being an Aberdeen fan. And he's got stories about being on the boat, and does he not end up getting his end away with like some Dutch girl or something like that, or on the ferry?
I think so.
Yeah, just being hammered and feeling sick and stuff. But yeah, it'd be amazing to go, to be able to go there. And probably the experience, even more than the game, is travelling there with your friends and fellow supporters.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's it's like the only sort of virtue about being a Scotland fan. it's travelling to games with friends and fellow supporters, because like the football is probably going to let you down, no doubt, you know.
So yeah, wonderful the trip over, and then I guess the game. I mean, stuff of legends, and I think it's a shame that I wonder if people from Aberdeen get annoyed that hark on about it. I saw a post on social media. In fact, I'll just fucking name him. It was our mutual friend.
Oh,
and it was around about the anniversary date, and it showed me that he was obviously fed up of hearing about this because he lives in Aberdeen, but he doesn't support Aberdeen.
No.
But even then, he obviously wasn't paying attention because he couldn't get the facts right. Because I think he put on social media, oh, did Aberdeen beat Gothenburg recently or something? Like, well, we never played Gothenburg. It was in Gothenburg. It was Real Madrid we beat. That shows you're not paying attention to facts here. But I wonder if it does annoy people that it gets mentioned, because not to me. This is fucking heritage. And as the Real Madrid manager said, he conceded, the better team won.
Yeah.
And he said, Aberdeen have what money can't buy: a soul and a team spirit built in a family tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And this ragtag bunch of lads from, the northeast in Glasgow turn up and fucking spank Real Madrid. I mean, spank, okay, we beat them 2-1, but, give them a good go. And we were the better team, by all accounts. And as they say, the game probably shouldn't have gone ahead because the pitch was so waterlogged. But that probably worked into our style. And
especially being training on the beach in Aberdeen.
Exactly.
Winter. Yeah.
And, fucking fantastic. Eric Black scores 1-0. And then, Madrid get a penalty. Leighton would have been sent off for that nowadays because he fucking wipes out the player. Absolutely fucking wipes him out. Like, lucky to still be on the pitch. And then, hold them 1-1 full time. Extra time comes, and I can stick your, they think it's all over up your arse, because for me, the greatest line in commentary is Jock Brown, Hewitt's waiting in the middle, yes! And it's a magnificent goal for Aberdeen. Just beautiful.
So here's something that I don't really understand, right? And I don't know if it's just because there were so many good players available at the time or what, but if you look at like Hewitt, Cooper and Black's international appearances, little to zero appearances for Scotland. You know what I mean? Like, obviously McLeish, Leighton and Strachan from that side famously, and Willie Miller, like, famously were big parts of the Scotland team. I remember having them in my Mexico 86 Panini book, But like, in terms of like goal scorers, why would you not have fucking Black and Hewitt on the Scotland, and Cooper for that matter,
I'd Kenny Dalglish.
I know, but Dalglish was getting on by then.
Dalglish, McCoist, Judy. I agree, and I wonder if that's maybe part of something that we still suffer from to this day, in terms of we do feel a little bit hard done by as Aberdeen fans, and we do think it's all about Rangers and Celtic. It's all about the West Coast media and stuff, and I wonder if we still suffer from this mentality Fergie instilled in the club.
Maybe.
Because a lot of those journalists are still around, and they have a lot of power in basically selecting who plays and who doesn't in terms of the national team. So I wonder if there is an issue with that, and it was a kind of fuck you, and maybe the SFA were annoyed as well, because we upset the status quo. It's only Rangers and Celtic that are allowed to win things. So who's this stupid club from the northeast winning things? So I wonder if there was maybe a few feathers ruffled.
Well, McLeish says, doesn't he, in the document, after they won the league for the first time with Fergie, and he said that he bumped into Danny McGrain, who said, congratulations, you're going to find it a lot fucking harder next year. He says, and I thought, all right then, and then he says, but then it was. It was really hard, because obviously they had both those clubs had clearly underestimated Aberdeen in that season and paid for it. And here they come again the next year. A lot of the same players, some new young guys in the team and stuff, and yeah, it was it was a tougher season for them. But yeah, they just with the domestic form and evidently the international form that those three players, if we just talk about Cooper, Black and Hewitt, had at the time, you would think they would at the very least they'd be in the fucking bench for Scotland, because Dalglish was, he was coming toward the end of his career. Like 2 years after Mexico '86, he was managing Liverpool. You know what I mean? Dalglish, I guess Strachan, but then again, like, you'd have Strachan, but you wouldn't have someone like Hewitt. Don't know, or like
I don't know.
Black. I don't know. It's weird. But again, Strachan's from the West Coast, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, so's Eric Black from Bells Hill.
Oh, right enough. Yeah.
Just Hewitt, the Aberdonian, that was left out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the player that I don't feel sorry for, because obviously he had a fucking amazing career. But the way his career finished is always going to be Jim Leighton. Because I remember that cup final, which was his. He knew it'd be his last appearance at Hampden, and he was talking before the game about how much he just loved to play at Hampden, regardless who he was playing for, and the feeling when you walk out onto the pitch and it's a full house and everything, and then he fucking knocked himself out in the first sort of 10-15 minutes of the game. And
no, he didn't knock himself out. Rod Wallace fucking blutered him in the face and broke his jaw.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was there, right behind the goal, and when that happened, and there was no fucking. It was intentional. He fucking smacked him in the face,
right?
Because we didn't have a goalkeeper on the bin,
right?
So that's why we had to put Robbie Winters in goal.
Was it Robbie Winters? Was it right? Okay.
Yeah, Robbie Winters went in goal. Lost 4-0, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's once Leighton got stretchered off and Winters went in goal. We just started doing the conga round Hampden because we knew we were fucked. So it was like, fuck it.
I mean, but that's not bad to only let 4 in when you're not a keeper in a cup.
I know. You know what I mean? And you're only and you're only 5'8". Yeah, it's pretty fucking good actually.
Yeah, it's not ideal for a cup final, but if it was like a league game, early in the league, you might be quite pleased with that,
But yeah, I think it's the team spirit that Fergie and had instilled in everyone, and you see that. And as I say, when they're talking about Neil Cooper, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, you can tell how upset they are, and it's true. I would say, obviously as we've spoken about Miller, he'll say hello to you. I've met John Hewitt a couple of times. I've been to football with John Hewitt, actually. I was in his box one day.
Wow.
Did like corporate hospitality with him. And, lovely guy. He'll speak away to you. Mm-hmm. Neil Cooper, I met a few times out. And Hewitt will, Miller will say thank you graciously and turn around.
Uh-huh.
Hewitt will speak to you for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Cooper would have asked you where the party is and bought you a pint. And told you a story about something. Like, he would have just spoken to you all night. He was such a fucking character. And it says a lot, how much the players miss him. And it was beautiful, the celebrations they had. There was an empty chair left for him with the number 4 jersey over it. And he was just such a character. He tells this beautiful story, and he told it when I saw him at this kind of after dinner speech, but he's told it, I think, in interviews before. And it's Fergie came up to him on a Monday. They were playing Celtic on the Saturday, and Fergie comes up to him and he goes, Cooper! He's always shouted, Cooper! I've got a job for you, Cooper. He's like, hey, Celtic have got this guy. They're calling him Bonnie Prince Charlie. So it was Charlie Nicholas. He's like, see, on Saturday, I want you to let him know you're there. Like, first opportunity you get, just let him know you're there. And he's like, okay, all right, boss. Do you understand? He's like, yeah, okay. It goes fucking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like every day. Cooper, remember what we spoke about? He's like, yeah, I remember, boss, I remember. It was Friday, I was walking past this office. Cooper! He goes, yeah, what are you doing? I goes, I've just been training. Do you remember what we spoke about? He goes, yeah. He goes, okay, all right. So Saturday the match comes. I think it is the quickest tackle or the quickest foul in football history in terms of the SPL. Paul McStay kicks off, passes it to Charlie Nicholas. Bang, Cooper, 2-footed right through him. Doesn't even get booked, right? But apparently, like, it's a fucking. He'd get banned for fucking 9 months nowadays with this tackle. And he goes, all the Celtic players just swam round him, like pushing him. Like, the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Like, it's literally 2 seconds in the game. All the Aberdeen players are swarmed round him, like, the fuck's up with Coops? What's going on? He goes, I turned round to the dugout, and Fergie's just standing there going, yes! And that's, story Cooper told. And it was such a shame. He I mean, I guess we don't know probably what happened. He was found unresponsive in the bottom of a stairwell in Aberdeen. I mean, I guess the theory is that he'd been out for a night out, he'd gone back to a party, and then he fell down the stairs pissed. But unfortunately he passed away. So sad loss, because he was a hell of a character, and you can tell that all the players loved him. Because he was that cheeky chappy.
Yeah.
Really,
And young, wasn't he? He was, when on that side, he was the young guy. I mean, obviously I had we won't go on about Willie Miller again, because we spoke about him quite a lot earlier, but I've obviously got a sort of opinion of Willie Miller and what type of guy he is and stuff, just from meeting him roundabout and stuff. And to see him in this documentary having to stop the interview essentially and sort of compose himself is a side of, because you see Willie Miller in his pomp when he was a player, and the sort of player he was, physical player, commanding player and stuff, and then you sort of see him around town and things for years when you're younger. You just wouldn't realise that layer, that sensitive layer is there. But obviously, a lot of people will know him a lot better than you and I do. But it was surprising and sort of testament to the fact of how much Cooper meant to him, and no doubt to the other guys on the side that they won the European Cup Winners' Cup with.
Yeah, they showed this documentary, I think the night before it aired on the BBC. They showed it in Aberdeen at some event, and the team were there, and they did an interview afterwards, and that's where Miller said about what McGee had said was wrong, in terms of they wouldn't, didn't have a chip on our shoulder, and he actually said, whilst he was being interviewed, he said, please don't ask me about Neil Cooper, because I'll start welling up again, so please don't, that's off the table, which says a lot. And I think it's, but he was just a wonderful character, and a very sad loss. And I know a lot of Aberdeen, pretty much every Aberdeen fan was gutted when he passed away. And he's still very fondly remembered amongst the team. Yeah. So that 11 that started the match in Gothenburg against Real Madrid, do you know that's the first time that actual 11 played together?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they only played, that actual exact 11 only played together twice.
Right.
In Gothenburg, and then against Rangers in the cup final the next week, 10 days later, I think they say in the documentary, which we win 1-0, and it's gone down in history in terms of, Aberdeen fans, the folklore, Fergie fucking raging. He's just won the European Cup Winners' Cup and the Scottish Cup, and he's fucking raging.
I think you'll find that Alex McLeish and Eric Black won the cup.
No, it's Miller and McLeish.
Oh, Miller
and McLeish won that.
Yeah,
Miller and McLeish won that. Jesus Christ, come on. But yeah, absolutely just raging at the performance. Come on, guy.
The luckiest team in the world. They were a disgrace of performance.
We've just lifted a European trophy. You're Aberdeen, remember. The manager's on the pitch, giving a rant about it's unacceptable how we played.
Were you surprised by the way that Rangers played?
Miller McLeish won a cup for Aberdeen.
We're in the dressing room. I remember the door opening like a saloon door. And we're going da 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 da. And he walks in and the atmosphere just went like that. He was raging. But that was the man. That was the standards he set himself and obviously set us.
Well, Miller McLeish played Rangers themselves. A disgrace of performance.
That's what a guy is, though. You know what I mean? I guess he's got very high expectations of his players. And I suppose that's why he was as successful as he was. I mean, easily the most successful Scottish manager, more successful than Matt Busby, I would say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think he's... Yeah, I'd imagine Pep Guardiola will probably overtake him at some point.
But he's not Scottish.
He is no, I meant in terms of the greatest manager in history, in terms of trophies won and stuff. But Fergie's up there, and just it's the continual. You could say done it again and again, but he did. He rebuilt. He left Aberdeen to go to Manchester United. I don't think any. Aberdeen have never been the same since he left. Really, but
then Man United have never been the same since he left either.
Exactly. So it's not a coincidental thing. It's Fergie. He was the difference. And it took him his time at Man U. It did take him a few years. And he was, he was close to he was one game away from getting sacked. And thankfully he pulled through, and then it just all changed. and he just went on this, incredible run of just winning fucking everything. And he was amazing, and he will always be an absolute legend.
Yeah.
Alex Ferguson, just absolute legend.
Arguably, he would not have had the time that it took him to get Man United to start being successful. Like now,
No.
it would never. If you're not doing the business after a season, you're out in your arse.
Yeah,
maybe
you've been sacked
halfway through the season. Even look what happened to fucking Gerrard at Aston Villa. You know what I mean? Just last year. So I guess it was a different time. It was the old Division 1, Division 2, as opposed to the Premier League and the Championship, or the SPL, etc. So I guess just the mentality was different then. It wasn't, I suppose, to be a bit of a cliche to say it, but I think there's a grain of truth in it that money wasn't the kind of business element of football back then. I don't think was the driving factor like it arguably is now, especially south of the border and in the SPL. Maybe maybe not to the same extent, but it's definitely exists. And guys got time back then to build teams and build a rapport and start chipping away and get some success. But arguably, there's no one's done it like Fergie for sure, and probably nobody ever will, because I can't see the game changing back to those old mentalities that existed in the 70s and 80s.
No. One thing that isn't covered in the documentary that I was a bit annoyed about, because I still got my copy on white vinyl, is the European song, which was the song recorded by the team for the final. And it's a beautiful song. I wish I could play it on this podcast, but I won't, because it might get into some sort of copyright issue. But amazing lyrics, We're the Dons from Aberdeen, and we're the finest that's ever been. And we are going to do it for you. We are going to do it for you. And the chorus, of course, we've taken our team into Europe. Yes, we have. Oh, yes, we have. All the way, every night and day, singing a European song. And that's it, basically. It's just repeat after that. They only mentioned 3 players. Normally you'd have all the players kind of name checked in the song. No, it's just McLeish, Miller, and Strachan too. That's it. That's the only 3 players mentioned.
So no Mark McGee rap or anything.
No, there's no Mark McGee rap. The only other name check is Alex Ferguson. We can sing and we can play. And Alex Ferguson, he knows the way. It's but it's a beautiful song. Yeah. Still got my copy on white vinyl.
I'm sure you'll be legally safe to play like 20 seconds of the best part of it in the pod if you wanted to.
Oh, I might do. I might close out with a little bit of the European song.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, because the popular song when I was a kid, I remember in a playground around about this time, which was soon disproven by the victory in Gothenburg, was that everybody used to say that Aberdeen couldn't kick a jelly bean, and obviously that turned out to be wrong. And
it turned out to be very wrong. Yeah. Turned out to be very wrong. That's scandalous. Team did very well. They got to the semi-finals of the 84 Cup Winners' Cup, and we lost to Porto, which is a game shrouded in conspiracy that the ref was paid off, if you know what I mean. We would have got to the final, we would have played Juventus in the 84 Cup Winners' Cup final, but we lost to Porto. I won't say anything about that other than it's shrouded in cheating bastards.
So one last point I would make about this documentary, not related to the football. What a fucking cracking soundtrack.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Brilliant.
I noticed that too. Really good soundtrack.
Talking Heads, Depeche Mode, everybody was there. Brilliant.
Yeah, really enjoyed. The only other point I would have had was there was like a documentary within the documentary, which was there was clips of Fergie just after his first year, and his voiceovers were so stilted in terms of what he was. I didn't enjoy my first season at Aberdeen, but I was determined to make it a change. When he's watched, I always believe in youth players. I think youth is good. So I'm going to bleed some of these youngsters. You're like, come on. He's improved a lot over the years. It's weird.
He's definitely much more comfortable in front of the camera these days. I guess you watched the documentary about him that his son made. It Never Back Down.
Yeah, I have,
Highly,
very good.
Highly recommend it.
Very good.
So are we going to attempt to put this documentary through our Swally Awards?
I've got one missing, but yes, I've got something for every
Have you
category.
really? Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right then. So first off, then, not sure how this is going to work, but I'm glad you're prepared. The the Bobby the Barman Award for the best pub in the documentary.
I presume you'll just agree with everything I say, I would imagine. It's the ferry over is the best pub.
Yeah.
Like, I would fucking love to be there at that time. Not nowadays, but at that time, I'd love to have been on that ferry over. So that's my choice for best pub.
There's something about crowds of guys all stood around, getting smashed, that inspires the odd one or two to just sort of leap into the middle of them and start dancing in a funny way. And it sort of goes on now. You see it happen even these days, occasionally. Like, bit of music on in the pub or whatever. Someone just leaps into the middle, starts body popping. Gets their cock out.
That was my first thought.
yeah. Oh dear. Okay, next one then. The James Cosmo Award for being in everything Scottish. No, I didn't see Cosmo on the bench for either Real or Aberdeen. No. Okay.
I put Alex Ferguson just purely because he's probably been in more Scottish things than anyone else, if that makes sense. But I mean, it's clutching at straws there. Straw hats and trumpets. It's clutching at there. So
hats and trumpets. Okay. The Ewan McGregor Award for gratuitous nudity. I'm intrigued.
I've got nothing for this. This is the one I've got nothing for, unfortunately.
You
could give it to Knox being stripped naked and pelted with snowballs. We didn't see it, but we heard about it. So let's give it to Knox.
I was going to say it could lead to a new category, the Archie Knox Award for undesired nudity, but that's me going down a dark path. I don't know what I'm going to say here. The Francis Begbie Award for gratuitous swearing.
I mean, early on you see Fergie and it's muted, but you can clearly see him mouthing the words, "Oh, for fuck's sake," or "Fuck," I think it's "move it fucking forward." But then when you see the clip of Knox, it's just every second is a fuck. Like you can, and it's clear as day what he's saying. But so it's silent swearing, but it's that, and it's beautiful. He's angry for his fucking fuck. It's wonderful.
I mean, I guess it's particular to Scottish, English, and Irish managers and coaches in the bench. But like back in the days, I remember when I would watch football with my grandfather or whatever. You wouldn't really be able to hear what you could. It was obvious. It was obvious. You didn't have to be like a lip reader to know what oaths were being bellowed across the fucking park. But these days, because like technology, equipment and everything and sound technology and stuff is much better, whenever you see a manager giving it both barrels in the touchline, you can often hear on the TV like reasonably clearly what they're saying, and even to the point where sometimes the commentators have to, we're sorry about that, a little bit of passionate language there, Okay, so what are we up to? Oh yeah, so the Jake McQuillan Your Teazoot Award, is it Willie Miller giving or Leighton, I guess? Stopping the...
Yeah, that was, it's, as discussed earlier, Leighton wiping out the Madrid forward. Yes, that's definitely my teazoot.
Yeah. Okay. Archetypal Scottish moment?
Just the sheer amount of booze and crates of tenants that were getting put on that ferry over to Gothenburg. Either that or the guy being interviewed. What are you going to do after the game? Get drunk. What are you going to do if you lose? Still get drunk.
Yeah. I mean, they're great choices. I think that underdog, the victorious underdog element. I think there's something quite Scottish about that, because we're obviously we're a small country, small population, but like Aberdeen beating Real at Gothenburg is just one example of a small band of fucking Scottish desperados beating a better equipped, mightier force. You know what I mean? Over the years. So there's I think there's something quite Scottish about going in. They certainly wouldn't have been the favourite. I mean, it'd been great to get I wonder if anybody made a lot of money off that, like back in Aberdeen against Real. I wonder what the odds were at the bookies. You know what I mean?
No idea.
Stick a tenner on.
Should look that up.
Yeah. But I bet a few people made a few quid off that over the years. A few like and probably Aberdeen fans at that. But yeah, I think there's something Scottish about going in with expectations maybe not being as high. And I know the Aberdeen fans, their expectations were, I'm sure a lot of them were like, we're going to fucking, we can win this. But I'm sure outside of the supporters was probably a bit of, watch Real absolutely take them apart,
Well, that's what it's Fergie that says, the documentary, or is it Archie Knox that says, like, Fergie went to watch Madrid.
That's right,
a couple of times before, and he says, we can beat them, but don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone. I've got a tenner on at William Hill.
So he was convinced that we could win. He knew, but it says a lot about his mentality to be like, don't tell them.
Yeah,
but we can beat them.
Yeah,
because I guess he wanted them to find out for themselves.
Yeah, be over cocky and and fucking right. And then I suppose who won the documentary? It's got to be Fergie, isn't it? Right.
Well, I just put Aberdeen as a whole, the team. But yeah, I mean, it's probably Fergie overall. He went on to the greatest things out of anyone in the documentary, really. So yeah, I guess Alex Ferguson did win it at the end of the day.
Well, it's great to see some old footage of the city though as well, around Pittodrie and sort of up King Street and stuff like that, with the homecoming down Union Street and things. It was in the airport, when we were showing people leaving, it was like 50 flights or something like that went that day, the day before the game, from Aberdeen to Gothenburg.
How long? Because obviously the open top bus goes quite slowly, and it says that they went from the airport to down to Pittodrie. How that must have taken fucking hours.
Well, there must have been a few country roads involved as well there, surely, back in those days.
Yeah, true. Actually, you're right,
Waving
maybe
the cows
just
and all that.
Sped up. Maybe sped up along those,
I'm sure, yeah.
Right, sit down, boys, we're going to go fast.
Yeah.
And then back to a snail's pace. We'll
stop here if anyone needs a pish. Yeah, brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I'm incredibly nostalgic for Aberdeen and 1980s Scottish football. Well, not just Scottish football, but just 1980s football in general. But there's something special about a team, and I can't imagine. The Rangers and Celtic are highly unlikely to ever win the Champions League. I mean, they're highly unlikely to win the fucking Europa Cup. You know what I mean? So if they're, so it's unlikely that it's, hopefully we do see something like this again. But you wouldn't bet on seeing Aberdeen win the Europa Cup night. I mean, fucking amazing if they did, but you wouldn't so for something like this to happen, for a team, I think for any sort of Scottish team to win a European trophy.
I'll be honest, in recent memory, there have been 3 occasions, I think, where Celtic and Rangers have got to usually the Europa Cup or UEFA Cup final. I think Rangers twice and Celtic once. And I'll be honest, as an Aberdeen fan, I'm always supporting the other team, purely because Aberdeen are the only team to have won 2 European trophies in terms of the Cup Cup and the Super Cup.
1 European trophy and one trophy and 1 plaque.
There's a plaque technically, but and that's why we have 2 stars on our jersey. And I know some fans don't agree with this, but fuck it, we've won 2 European trophies. Fuck it, we're allowed to have it. So I think that's why we don't want that record to go away. And it's the same as anytime Real Madrid get to a cup final, I shit myself because I'm like, oh, fuck. Please win, because we need that stat to keep going. 40 years Real Madrid have never lost a European final. So that's the 2 things. I always support whoever's playing Rangers and Celtic in Europe, and whoever, I always support Real Madrid in a final.
Cool. So this is normally be the point where I would say, well, Nicky, it was my choice to pick Once in a Lifetime, the Aberdeen 1983 documentary. So that must mean that it's your choice, but it's not your choice. Whose choice is the next episode?
It's not, yeah. So on the last episode of The Swally, I spoke to Gary from Doric Skateboards, and I asked him at the end of the interview to select a piece of Scottish media to review. So I will hand over to Gary and myself to hear what we're going to be talking about on the next episode. There's normally, at the end of the episode, Greg or I pick what we're going to be watching next time on The Swally. So I'd like to extend to you a pick. So I'm going to say, Gary, why don't you tell us what we're going to be watching next time on the Culture Swally.
Okay, I've got 2 picks for you just in case, okay?
Okay.
And I hope you've not covered them all. I don't think you have. Well, I don't think you have. Let's have a look. But number 1 is My Name is Joe. Okay.
No, we haven't covered that. No, and it's been on our list for a while, so yeah.
Peter Mullen, from Peterhead originally, brought up in Glasgow though. Won Best Actor at Cannes for that, I think in 96, 97.
Yeah.
Written by Paul Lafferty, who's Scottish and wrote Sweet 16 and loads of directed by Ken Loach. Paul Lafferty works with Ken Loach a lot on his films, like I think he wrote Angel's Share as well.
Yeah.
What else? But it's brilliant. It's got your guy Gary Lewis as well in it, who's in everything. A few other faces you recognise. But yeah, it sounds miserable. The story of an alcoholic in Glasgow and his struggles to not fall off the wagon. But I think it's brilliant. I think it's one of the best. Yeah.
You say it's miserable, but it's a perfect kind of encapsulation of a Scottish film in terms of it is dark, but it's hilarious at times as well.
Absolutely hilarious. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant film.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So there we go, Greg. On the next episode, we'll be looking at the 1998 film starring Peter Mullen and directed by Ken Loach, My Name is Joe.
It's surprising it's taken us so long to get around to doing this one.
Yeah, as I said in the clip with Garage then, like I think I've a couple of times I've like, right, I'm going to pick that next. And then for some reason I haven't, like something's come up or something got in the way, and I think you've been the same too, and it's it's surprising it's taken us so long, but there we go. My Name is Joe, coming up on the next episode of The Swell.
And if you're not in the UK and you'd like to watch the Once in a Lifetime documentary, for the time being, I'm not sure if it's meant to be there, but you can watch it on YouTube. That's where I watched it. If you are in the UK, I believe that at the time of recording, which is Sunday the 4th of June, it's still available on the iPlayer. So
yeah, I'll have a check and see if it's on YouTube before the episode comes out, and I'll put the link in the description of the podcast.
Cool.
Right, well, thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you want to give us a little email to tell us any news stories you'd like us to cover, or if you've got any requests of something you'd like us to cover, or if you just want to get in touch and say hello, then please do on cultureswally@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Insta at cultureswallypod, and you can follow us on Twitter at swallypod. And Greg, we have a beautiful website as well, don't we?
Yep, you can find us at cultureswally.com. Lots of links to all our episodes, a few articles on there. Maybe I'll try and write something about the Aberdeen team of 1983. Maybe, or maybe not. We'll see how we go on. But yeah, come over there and check us out, and don't forget to go and see Gary at Doric Skateboards as well, and check out all his items and avail our offer. Get yourself 15% off.
Wonderful. Right, up to anything else today, Greg? I'm off to go and support Partick Thistle for the afternoon.
I'm off to try and get Radio Scotland. But the problem is with Radio Scotland here is I can listen to it, but if there's a game on, it says you can't listen to it because you're not in the UK. But there's ways around it, which I will avail. And
of course.
I'll listen to it on the radio, old school, like the old football gods intended.
I did that the other week. I can't remember what game it was, but it was an Aberdeen game, and the stream I was watching was pretty shit quality. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to listen to the radio, because then I don't have to sit and watch it. I can just put my AirPods in and walk around the house whilst listening to it. Yeah. And it reminded me of when I was a kid, and if I wasn't at Pittodrie, then I'd be listening to the game. If it was an away game, I'd be listening to it on the radio on a Saturday afternoon. It just reminded me of that, and it's really. I really enjoyed it, listening to it. No, I'm just sitting focused, and then, it's the excitement of the commentary. I really enjoyed it.
I used to do it a lot when I was driving for work. I would listen to a game on the radio when I was driving, and it always reminds me of my granddad's. My granddad used to always have the radio on a Saturday afternoon in the kitchen, like all day. And it would just be, but if there was a game being played on the TV, he was a big Rangers fan, so he would, if Rangers were playing, he would, if it was on television, like on Grandstand or Scott Sport or whatever, he would watch it, but he would have whatever other game was on the radio in the kitchen, and then you'd have the pools later on, you know what I mean? Well, when they would read the scores for the day, and that like really emotionless voice, like Partick Thistle 1, Queen of the South 0. It's like no emotion whatsoever. You didn't know the result. So so that's what I'll do today. I'll try and get the Partick game on the radio somehow, and I'll just listen to that while I'm pottering about.
Very nice. Oh well. Okay. Well. I will look forward to speaking to you in a couple of weeks where we look at My Name is Joe. All right, till next time then, Greg.
Till next time.